President Trump calls off threats to strike Iran harder.
Howard's here to report.
Good morning. Trump threatened more strikes and even said he would seize Iran's Kharg Island oil export terminal. Then he called off the further strikes, citing a breakthrough in negotiations. Trump called the breakthrough a settlement, but he offered no details. What Trump did say was that he expected a firmer agreement over the next few days. A spokesman for the Iran Foreign Ministry went on Tehran state TV, essentially confirming that an extended ceasefire agreement is mostly finalized. Please note, however, that this indicates agreement to keep seeking agreement, not yet any sort of actual settlement. And Trump tweeted this morning that Iranian media were circulating terms he didn't agree to. The U.S. continues to enforce an embargo on Iranian shipping and has now disabled 9 tankers or cargo ships that declined to turn back. The U.S. Central Command said Thursday it disabled a Guinea-Bissau flagged tanker full of Iranian oil, which brings us to oil prices. They're down 1% this morning. Brent C crude is below $90 a barrel for a change. West Texas Intermediate is below 87 a barrel. AAA average regular gasoline is $4.12 a gallon nationwide. Honolulu regular is $5.53, but even local prices are down slightly. After regaining more than 900 points yesterday, the Dow this morning has given up some of its morning gains, but is still up almost 200 points. I probably should also mention that trading has begun in SpaceX.
Oof.
And is being bought and sold above the asking price.
Wow.
Yeah. Elon Musk is a rich man. Yeah. Richer man.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of money.
Yeah, he's doing all right. Yeah. Thanks, Howard.